Good evening. In the headlines.
Tonight, the ghost of corruption came calling. Finance Committee goes against the President's choice, rejects Dr. Ben Chumo's nomination for SRC chair.
Also tonight, pulling in different directions.
There was no surrender. And if somebody has that surrender, let them bring it to us.
NLC defends Ruaraka land sale, says it's private land, a stark contrast from CS Amina's earlier position.
Those of us in the executive will engage with the legislature.
The Deputy President promises to intervene on the judiciary's cash crunch problem.
Also tonight, we tell you why these two received 10 strokes each.
NTV Tonight with Dennis Okari and Olive Burrows.
Welcome to the program. Our sign language interpreter is Flora Tieno.
Tonight, the fate of former Kenya Power MD Dr. Ben Chumo is in limbo after the National Assembly Committee on Finance and Planning rejected his nomination for the chairmanship of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission.
The departmental committee says in a report tabled in the House on Wednesday morning that Chumo failed the test of integrity and his nomination violated the tenets of Chapter 6 of the Constitution and the Leadership and Integrity Act.
The former Kenya Power Company managing director is a part of those facing graft cases at the Anti-Corruption Court over the irregular tendering processes at the Kenya Power.
The fate of the former Kenya Power Managing Director Ben Chumo now lies on the floor of the House. But as NTV has learned, his fate could already be sealed.
National Assembly Leader of Majority Aden Duale says that they are ready to endorse the committee's recommendations.
NTV's Silas Apollo reports on what this may mean going forward.
Another blow to the former boss of the power monopoly just days after the Anti-Corruption Court released him on a cash bail in the 450 million shillings corruption scam. The Finance Committee in its report singles out what it says was a failure by Ben Chumo to meet the leadership and integrity threshold. This, says the committee, arises out of the fact that he's been accused of economic crimes and therefore does not satisfy the requirements of Chapter 6 of the Constitution on Leadership and Integrity. Dr. Chumo is facing criminal prosecution over economic crimes committed during his tenure as the CEO of Kenya Power.
One can only be innocent until he's proven guilty. So that's what, and I appreciate that this is the House that formulates law in this country, and therefore the spirit of constitutionalism in this country should prevail.
The committee argues that while he presented a certificate of good conduct, the DCI did not provide required information on him upon request by the committee and in essence made it impossible to give him a clean bill of health on integrity. It further notes that as the chairman of the Egerton University Council, Dr. Chumo had not stepped aside even after he was charged alongside 18 others. The team also notes that should President Uhuru Kenyatta's nominee be approved, there's potential conflict of interest since he's still serving as the chairman of Universities Council. And even before the debate on the report commences, the National Assembly Leader of Majority Aden Duale told NTV in an earlier interview that they would not endorse his nomination.
We cannot purport to approve an individual who is facing economic crimes before a competent court and also before an anti-corruption court.
Chumo was interviewed on his academic credential, relevant experience, knowledge of sector issues, and leadership and integrity. The committee now wants the House to reject Dr. Chumo's nomination. Silas Apollo, NTV.
National Land Commission Chair Mohammed Suzuri says the disputed Ruaraka land where Drive-In Primary School and Ruaraka Secondary School sit is private and not public land.
In a statement that now contradicts Education CS Amina Mohammed, Suzuri says there was no deed of surrender to show the land had been handed over to the government.
And as NTV's Mel Miendo reports, the National Lands Commission Chair also says he will not cave in to pressure to resign over the controversy about the land's ownership.
Very detailed process here. It will end up with the approval being registered in the title, and a deed of surrender is signed. Nothing like that happened.
The controversy surrounding the status and ownership of the Ruaraka land where Ruaraka Secondary and Driving Primary School sit continues, with the defiant NLC Chair Mohammed Swazuri maintaining the land is privately owned. He says the 1.5 billion shillings in compensation paid out to Francis Burrows was approved by relevant authorities, including the Attorney General's Office, the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Lands.
The searches from the Ministry of Land, the registry, twice, 2015, 2017, twice, and 2018, have all confirmed it is private land.
Mohammed Swazuri maintains that they followed the rightful procedure in compensating the Ruaraka land. This is in exact contradiction from what Education Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohammed said while she appeared before the Senate Public Accounts Investment Committee on Monday.
This process should ordinarily be initiated either by the Ministry of Education or otherwise by the law courts.
Regarding the ownership of the piece of land, Swazuri on his part said there was no deed of surrender to indicate that the land was handed over to the government.
There is a letter here from the county government, January 2017, where he's saying there is no surrender, the land has remained intact. So where is this surrender coming?
In this case, there was no ownership, and as I've referred to, the instruments of ownership are still not with us or with the school.
Swazuri says the controversy around the ownership of the piece of land and claims of corruption is a creation of the media. He claims it was a well-orchestrated scheme by a section of government officials to push him out of the helm of the National Lands Commission.
We are here to do our work. These cowards only who resign. We are here. Mimi niko hapa. Hamnitoi wala hamwezi kunifanya lolote.
The National Land Commission maintains that Ruaraka Secondary School and Driving Primary Schools are not the only schools located in private land, and this issue is known by the Ministry of Education. They're now challenging anyone with any information with regards to the Ruaraka land to come forth and provide these documents to the National Land Commission. Melmiendo, NTV, Nairobi.
There are still no concise answers as to the suitability of the impounded sugar, as government chemist Ali Gakweli was a no-show at Parliament.
He was expected before Parliament's Committee on Agriculture and Trade to shed more light on the tests they had conducted and that showed some samples had traces of mercury.
Some members of the committee were outraged that he failed to show up, with some claiming that they had seen him within Parliament's precincts before he disappeared.
The committee is expected to have prepared a final report of their probe into the contraband sugar by Wednesday next week.
And if they are...
The government chemist was expected before the National Assembly Joint Committee on Trade and Agriculture to provide more details into his report that indicated the presence of mercury in some samples taken from sugar impounded in Nairobi and Bungoma. But he was a no-show.
If the witness has said that they are ready to come tomorrow at 3, will it be fair to say and clearly say that they have refused to come before the committee?
His snub of the committee summons vexed some members of the committee, some of who claimed to have even seen him around Parliament before he left, claiming to have been called back by the Ministry of Interior.
That one is a serious case. You are saying that they were here.
They were outside there.
Who confirms that they were outside
we
here?
Wanted, why wasn't the sergeant at arms given their contacts to make sure that they are not here?
Honorable Kamene, you are making...
And all of a sudden,
Honorable Kamene, this is a house of order and rules.
We cannot be just
Let me tell you, Honorable
Kamene.
Results from Kenya Bureau of Standards, government chemist. So what else do we need from these officers? Analyze the reports and give Kenyans
order
the information that is there.
Preliminary report by the government, that of the Kenya Bureau of Standards, that indicated presence of copper and lead in some of the tested samples of the impounded sugar, but disputed claims that the sugar had mercury. Other than mercury, the government chemist said samples from sugar impounded in Kakamega, Nakuru, Samburu, Kiambu, Kajiado also tested positive for copper, lead, arsenic, zinc, and had high moisture content and molds.
We have said that.
This was the committee's 26th meeting since it started the sugar probe. Interior Cabinet Secretary, the Principal Secretary, and the government chemist are expected before the committee on Thursday at 3 p.m. The committee is expected to table a final report of its findings on whether the impounded sugar is safe or not on the floor of the House on Wednesday next week. Vincent Odur, NTV.
To the cash crunch facing the judiciary, and the executive has finally spoken on the subject and appears to backtrack on the decision to slash the judiciary's budget by half.
Deputy President William Ruto now says the executive will consult with the legislature to ensure that all three arms of government get the funds they need to operate optimally.
The promise comes amid sharp criticism from different sectors over the move that could cripple the judiciary's operations.
Brenda Wanga is still on that story.
Standing ovation to the DP.
A day after the Judicial Service Commission raised the alarm over the state of its coffers, the President of the Supreme Court and the Deputy President met at the African Bar Association conference. The elephant in the room, the judiciary budgetary cuts.
Your Lordship, the Chief Justice, your concerns, and those of us in the executive will engage with the legislature so that we can make sure that all of us are resourced in a manner that it will enable us to deliver on all our mandates.
The DP's assurance comes on the back of criticism over the executive and the National Assembly's move to cap the judiciary budget to 17.3 billion shillings and then to further cut it to 14.5 billion shillings against the judiciary's need of 31 billion shillings.
Any budgetary cuts serve as a severe impediment to access to justice and to the reduction of court cases.
We can't have a begging judiciary, a judiciary that will not be adequately dispense its services, simply it is lacking funds. Because somebody will be worried about his or her salary.
The JSC indicated that the cuts will indeed affect the delivery of justice in the courtrooms, as well as the improvement of the general judicial infrastructure. Those who interact with these aspects of the judiciary say the impact will be much bigger than anticipated.
We have so many incomplete structures all over. We started in Mombasa, which is actually groundbreaking commenced. Nakuru has a magnificent structure that's supposed to be complete.
These services, if they are not going to be delivered accurately and perfectly, definitely we will all suffer.
According to the JSC, 70 court construction projects will stall as a result of the cuts, while a further 29 projects funded by the World Bank are also likely to be affected by both the cuts and the government's unwillingness to extend the lender's loan facility. And now the government is being asked to reconsider its stand.
The courts are not new projects to have their funding stopped.
The judiciary has a significant role to play. That debate goes on so that we can make sure that all arms of government are moving together, because without any arm of government, it's not possible to deliver to the people of Kenya.
Despite that assurance, LSK now says it will formally write to Parliament to ask it to allocate more funds to the judiciary. KOTU, on the other hand, wants Treasury to present a supplementary budget to Parliament for approval to avoid a situation that would disrupt the working of the judiciary. Brenda Wanga, NTV.
Well, in news just in from the Director of Public Prosecution, which he's shared via Twitter, he says he's ordered the arrest and charging of Nyandarua County officials in a fraudulent 50 million shilling water and sewerage tender.
Well, in line with what the DPP has been doing over the week, in this one, it's actually a press statement where he says, having received the evidence so far gathered after the documentary exhibits in support thereof, I have directed the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission to immediately cause the arrest of the persons named in that letter and have them arraigned in court, signed today. So that's just what has just come in from the office of the DPP, Nurdin Haji, ordering the arrest and charging of Nyandarua County officials in that fraudulent deal of water and sewage tender.
Yes, and it came in about just 30 minutes ago. It's a developing story and we'll keep you up to date as it develops. Well, the Narok County Commissioner, George Natembeya, says there is no going back on the efforts to recover encroached parcels of land in the Mau Forest.
While giving a status update on the evictions, Natembeya called for an environmental audit of the proposed buffer zone between the national and county-owned parts of the Maasai Mau Forest.
At the same time, a Narok court has quashed an attempt to halt the ongoing evictions, targeting to reclaim 8,000 hectares of forest land, even as Senate Majority Leader Kipchumba Murkomen appeared to have changed his stand on the evictions following a meeting of North and South Rift MPs.
We all understand how important this forest is. We cannot sacrifice the future of an entire generation, yeah, just to make a few people happy. Wale watu ambao wako pale ni watu wachache sana, lakini ile madhara wanafanya ni madhara makubwa. This is what, as a responsible government, this is the time for intervention.
Our position in government is to support the Agenda 4, to ensure that we support the President and the Deputy President to implement the agenda. And also, I suppose all as leaders must support in conserving the Mau catchment area and settling the evictees that were evicted from that area, and to ensure that they are living in a good conditions.
The multi-agency team involved in the rescue and recovery mission of a man believed to be trapped inside Okari in Molem area of Njiru since Saturday are yet to reach him.
The team says the delay has been caused by the bad terrain and the huge rocks they have to drill to reach the man whose status is still undetermined.
Charity Mwangi reports.
This has been their permanent station for the last 5 days. Their routine is simple: drill, crush, scoop the rocks and repeat the sequence. And once in a while they take a break, if only to nourish their bodies that have been at it since Saturday.
What we are doing here is about safety. Safety is about everything, because we are minding safety of the responders, safety of the equipment itself, safety of the public.
All this while crowds gather. Speculation over the whereabouts of the missing man is rife. People talk in hushed tones. The machinery at the disposal of the crews only allows for just one man doing the job at a time, because there's very little room for the tractors to operate. That notwithstanding, 4 of them lie idle.
What is being done here, that's the professional way that it's supposed to be done. There's no another way it should have been done, because we are looking for somebody and we cannot just hurry and also jeopardize the operation by affecting ourselves in our own safety and security.
Family members have been keeping vigil as they hope for a possible reunion with their kin, whose pursuit of a livelihood landed him in the predicament.
Nimekaa hapa hizo siku zote tangu Saturday asubuhi hadi saa hii sijaona wakisimama ama nini kudelay.
The operation is expected to be completed on Friday if no surprises occur, as was the case on Sunday when the cave collapsed in the middle of the recovery mission. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
Now, some members of parliament, led by Minority Leader John Mbadi, have told off Ford Kenya Party leader Moses Wetangula over his remarks that the NASA coalition was just but a shell.
Speaking in Parliament, the MPs accused Wetangula of being bitter after his ouster as the Senate Minority Leader.
Senator Wetangula is the least qualified to talk about team playing or to be a team player. First, you remember, as a NASA coalition, we gave him the responsibility to be the leader of minority in the Senate. He was leading a team of 28 senators, and by the time he was being removed for being being someone who is not a team player, not even a single senator stood by him to defend him.
NASA now should declare a vacancy of one slot of a principal, so that other Kenyans can apply if there's a vacancy. But this joke of we are equal, how can Wetangula be equal to Raila Odinga? He can't be equal to him in terms of age, in terms of experience, in terms of what he has done for this country, in terms of party leadership. What equal can you put yourself? You are a party leader of 6 members of parliament.
Wetangula in Bungoma County, where he comes from, where we expect him to dominate, has 9 constituencies. Wetangula has only 3. So where are these 6? Where are these 6? Wetangula must be told in uncertain terms that he has been a minority leader here. He's now going to be a minority leader in Bungoma. We have devolved him.
Those members from Fort Kenya, especially my deputy and going forward, if I don't get any letter in the next 48 hours disassociating themselves from the statements of their party leader, action will be taken.
NTV Tonight takes a short break.
But you want to stay tuned because we have an interesting story from Kakamega about a couple which received a beating.
Welcome back. Alternative dispute resolution mechanisms was one of the ways Chief Justice David Maraga hoped would help the judiciary clear years of backlog characteristic of Kenyan cases in courts.
However, the move by Treasury and Parliament to slash the Judicial Service Commission's budget requirements by nearly half is seen as a move that will largely deny Kenyans justice, as it will greatly delay and slow down the implementation of the alternative dispute resolution across the country.
Gladys Gishanja with more.
Wajir County, with an estimated population of over 650,000, is only served by one court. In the alternate, the traditional Mazla system thrives here as dispute resolution method. The system relies on religious and cultural tenets to resolve disputes, and though sometimes the penalty may not be commensurate with a crime, many in Wajir rely on it, for it takes a much shorter time to resolve long-standing disputes. The judiciary has been encouraging such alternatives to litigation to ease the pressure of courts inundated with civil disputes, and that the judiciary estimates held up about 4 billion shillings of taxpayers' money. With lean financial times expected ahead, they will be banking on these alternatives to help ease the backlog.
In areas where culture still plays a big role, you still have the traditional dispute resolution mechanism, so that the judiciary's role will be to just mostly oversee, so that to ensure that this dispute resolution mechanism, the traditional one that is within the ambits of morality and it's not repugnant, you know, the overseeing clause. However, now, first of all, the cuts will affect that because this is something that the judiciary was actually rolling.
The court annexed mediation and arbitration division was a pilot project under the former CJ Willie Mutunga and was entrenched as a method of dispute resolution at the High Court of Nairobi in both the family and commercial courts.
As a mediator, for example, if like in the last 1 year, I have mediated successfully over 10 family mediations. That has relieved 10 matters in court, and we are about 100. So imagine 100 of us handling 10 family disputes. You've already removed backlog to the tune of 1,000 matters.
Last year, July, CJ Maraga urged the public to seek alternative dispute resolution methods, something that would also greatly free up money held up in litigation and which he said had a great impact on their operations.
That people shy away from investing in certain countries is because of the court process and dispute resolution. If investors come to Kenya and they catch wind of the fact that it takes 10 years in Kenya to get a judgment on a matter, and now enforcement could be an issue, there is no real provision for alternative dispute resolution. They don't want to sit here. Investors are about money, and you know, time is money, and vice versa. That is what led to the MOU between the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration, the China Joint Arbitration Center, because they realize that ADR is a fast way of resolving disputes. You cannot stop construction of the SGR to wait for 10 years for a matter to end in court. You move to quick arbitration or mediation, you resolve the matter and the project continues. So this is a ripple effect, and I really wish Parliament would reconsider this move in their supplementary budget.
Gladys Gashanja, NTV.
On to that story we told you a little bit about earlier. A village in Kakamega is in shock after a man married his own sister. The incident, which took place in Mugai village in Malava, irked the village elders, who decided to call for a cleansing ceremony which involved the caning of the two.
NTV's Zacchaeus Masame witnessed the event, which was meant to avoid what the elders call a generational curse.
The whole village gathered here to witness a rare occasion for a rare occurrence. Fred Makoha and Rebecca Makoha, who are in their early 20s, were handcuffed, ready for punishment for having tied the matrimonial knot despite being siblings.
Kiwacha kichana awe dada yake, wakati wataanza kuzaa watoto, hawatakuwa na watoto. Watoto watakuwa kikufa tu.
Their punishment, 10 strokes of the cane. The elders claim that the marriage will result into a curse on the entire village.
Ndio sababu tunafanya mila ya kwamba akiwa mwanamke wake labda wanaweza kuzaa watoto waishi. Lakini bila kufanya mila haiwezekani.
The ceremony did not end there. A bull had to be slaughtered and the intestinal component smeared on the victims to ward off a potential curse. During the ceremony, the couple is not allowed to utter any word. Women too are kept away from the cleansing ceremony.
Tulikuwa tumepokea ripoti ya kwamba wameoana na walikuwa wamehama kutoka kwa poma, sasa walikuwa wamepangisha nyumba.
Mtu anaenda anasema nipe pesa mimi nikula alafu mambo ikwishe. Mtu anapewa shilingi 1,100. Alafu hiyo watoto wanajua wataharibika tu hivyo sababu hawakufanyia kimila.
The clansmen say the event is meant to teach the two a lifetime lesson to avoid a repeat of the same.
Sasa hii hata tunaweza kuwalani. Watoto hao watakuwa wabaya tu hivyo.
Zacchaeus Masame, NTV, Malava in Kakamega County.
That was quite the interesting story. Okari, what would possess a man to marry his own sister?
You know, I'm just thinking, oh, Makoha, why did you do that?
Oh
why?
Okay, it's
I think strange things we do for love.
Really? You think so?
Yeah, it's strange, but surprisingly, I don't know how a cane will kick the love out of Makoha's heart.
It's a cleansing ceremony, and sisters, you know, just not allowed.
Well, if caning worked, then I don't know.
But I would love to hear that side of the story, and hopefully we get it from Zacchaeus Mwasame. All right, Madogo Secondary School was the latest to go up in flames in the wave of unrest sweeping through the country.
Kenya National Union of Teachers Secretary Wilson Sosion blames the government delocalization of teachers policy for the unrest as Parliament debated proposals to have all schools installed with CCTV cameras to track student activities.
Added to the list of schools that have gone up in flames instead of grades is Madogo Secondary School in Garissa. The fire started early morning, and even though the firefighting department from the county responded relatively fast, it wasn't in good time to put out the flames. The school administration, however, admits to having seen this coming.
Wiki iliyopita wale wanafunzi wa kidato cha 4 walikuwa wamewasilisha ujumbe kwamba kupitia kwa vijikaratasi kuwa hawangependa kuendelea na mtihani wetu wa mwisho wa muhula, hatua ambayo bodi ya shule ilikaa na ikawaruhusu wakaenda nyumbani.
This perhaps giving some credence to the theory that exam jitters could be the reason for the flare-up in the cases of schools unrest just weeks to the end of term exams. The Form 1 to Form 3 students were meant to start their exams today, but this will not happen as the school has been closed indefinitely. One student has been arrested as investigations begin. The parents there say perhaps it's time to bring back the rod.
Nimeona ile kiboko ilikuwa ilitolewa kwa shule, hiyo kiboko irudishwe. Irudishwe kwa shule, mtoto akiwa primary ndio apate kiboko na ikuje na nidhamu kwa shule, ndio sasa hiyo mambo labda itabadilika.
Not Secretary General Wilson Sosion says the TSC policy of delocalization of teachers may be responsible for the unrest witnessed in over 60 schools. He says the union may be forced to make good their threat to go on strike if the policy is not reversed.
Even if TSC continues insisting, we shall continue opposing it. It will not work. And we have seen the negative fruits, the banning of schools, where principals and head teachers who have been mentors and fathers of children in those particular schools that have been doing well have been removed.
Parliament in the meantime today debated a motion proposing that CCTV cameras be installed in all schools to be able to track all student activities. Mark Masai, NTV.
A Form 2 student from Mudambi Girls Secondary School in Tharaka Nithi County is missing. Wendy Joy Ntinyari went missing from school on the 14th of July 2018 at around 2:30 a.m.
The girl's mother says she does not understand how her daughter went missing days after reporting to school. The police are calling on the public for any information on her whereabouts.
The girl was in their hands. The school really should do something to try and get my daughter back.
Police are investigating the possible murder of a third-year Kenyatta University student who had visited her boyfriend who lives in Kisumu.
Her body bearing stab wounds was found in her boyfriend's house just a few meters from their home.
Namukabo Werunga has more on this bizarre incident.
Family and friends of the late Beverly Nakinyi gathered at the Russia Hospital mortuary in Kisumu to view the body of their loved one torn from them in a most brutal way. The circumstances around her death still puzzle them. The third-year Kenyatta University student had allegedly gone to her boyfriend's house just a few meters from their home. Her mother says she was unaware of the visit.
When I received a call from my aunt, who is at Kericho by now, telling me that she received a phone call from a neighbor, telling her sorry for what has happened, but she didn't know what happened. So she was told my girl has been killed in a friend's house. So it's like I never wanted to accept it because I knew my girl was in school. Yes.
Her boyfriend, 32-year-old Evans Otieno, runs a business in Kisumu. He wasn't home at the time, but his stepbrother was. Police now consider him the prime suspect in the murder. He is also said to have attacked Akinyi's boyfriend when he got home from work and left him nursing deep chest and stomach wounds. Otieno is currently receiving treatment at a hospital in Kisumu, while the suspect is being held at the Kondele police station. Police say they are still investigating the crime. Namukabo Werunga, NTV, Kisumu.
NTV Tonight takes another short break.
But when we come back, Dan Wangi brings us the business news.
Good evening and welcome to NTV Business. I'm Dan Mwangi. Now, a petition by the Public Transport Operators Workers Union of Kenya seeking to have the creation of new regulations for digital taxi operators has been committed to the Transport, Public Works and Housing Committee. It aims to curtail what non-digital taxi operators term as unfair competition from their digital counterparts. According to the petition presented to the House by the Dagoretti North MP Simba Arati, non-digital taxi operators are suffering business-wise from competition before the House.
The taxi business in Kenya has grown tremendously in recent years, with digital innovation fueling emergence of alternative and cheaper ways of travel. Such is the growth, and in the capital city, it appears there is a glut of supply in the market. That growth has produced winners and losers. The advent of mobile-based applications that offer convenience to users and at a cheaper price has rattled the market to the extent that traditional taxi operators are now seeking regulations through a petition to Parliament in a bid to protect their dwindling market share.
Relatively low prices that Uber and other applications are offering in the market pose unfair competition since they do not incur other expenses like paying of drivers, maintenance and running costs among other which local tax owner incur.
That he's from China.
The 9-point petition also wants a review of the Traffic Act of 2012 to include app-based taxi services in order to distinguish private car hire services from taxi services. According to the Public Transport Operators Workers Union of Kenya, some of the app-based services are registered under provision of private car hire services and not taxi services, thus putting passengers' safety at risk. The union's prayers is that the Transport Committee of the National Assembly to prevail upon the competition authorities to intervene.
Cause the Competition Authority of Kenya to prioritize the industry to remedy any anti-competitive issues that may arise.
However, members of Parliament will hear none of that.
We really want also our taxi drivers to form companies, to form groups and create an app and let them compete in the market the way we are. They don't just allow any Tom, Dick and Harry to be allowed to operate Uber. There are security measures. They scrutinize, they do evaluations before you're allowed to do that monkey business, Madam Speaker.
We have had cases of even kidnappings and people being molested or goods stolen because you cannot tell whose tax was it and where it belongs. But with the Uber and Taxify, Mr. Speaker, you'll find that you can identify the driver even before he comes to you.
The petition has been forwarded to the relevant committee, but a majority of members have vowed to shoot it down if a report setting tough regulations is brought. Kennedy Muredi, NTV Business.
The Western Kenya Independent Petroleum Dealers Association has commended the Energy Regulatory Commission, thus the ERC, on the ongoing raids of illegal oil dens. The petroleum dealers, however, want the ERC to fight back a court injunction granted to some of the dealers who are affected by the raids. Lois Wangoi reports.
The Energy Regulatory Commission, together with a multi-agency team from the Ministry of Mining and Petroleum, have conducted raids to unearth illegal fuel installations around the country, an exercise that led to several arrests. The Western Kenya region was the first place, followed by Nairobi chapter, but now some businessmen have sought an injunction to halt the raids.
Prior to the raid at the Kenya Pipeline Depot in Eldoret, PS27, the daily throughput for kerosene used to be 8 million liters per day. But as it is now, this has tumbled down to only 2 million liters per day. This tells us that 6 million liters was what was used by these unscrupulous business people to underwrite fuel.
Even as the courts order the ERC to immediately stop the spot checks of illegal oil dens, those in the business of oil and its products fault the decision, saying those objecting to the raids are afraid of operating on a level playing field. The traders say those doing illegal business frequently dump oil meant for export into the Kenyan market cheaply, crippling the industry.
The difference between the prices of fuel in the market and those that these people have been selling has been even upward to Kenya shillings 20 to 30 shillings per litre. What does that tell you?
Through the spot checks, ERC had sought to address the problem of selling adulterated fuel and also fuel meant for export, and though the industry is yet to establish the amount of losses incurred through the sale of the same, traders say such spot checks will go a long way in ensuring sanity within the industry and also protecting motorists. Lois Wangoi, NTV Business, Eldoret.
A petition to order the national government to hand over the transfer of cargo handling activities to the county government of Mombasa is set to be heard by a 5-judge bench that is set to be constituted by the Chief Justice David Maraga. High Court Judge Eric Ogola says the petition to hand over the management of the Port of Mombasa to the county government is of great magnitude and therefore requires the concerted effort of judges. The petitioners contend that the handling of the port's business by the national government has contributed to a downturn in the economic fortunes of Mombasa. They want the government to regulate the port but to leave the management of its operations to the county government.
There is capacity because capacity is resources, the factors of production that are in place, which is land, which is a human resource, which is capital, which is technology, that are already in place that will facilitate the county government of Mombasa to run the Port of Mombasa. What is missing right now?
From the ocean side to the skies, and Brazilian Embraer has showcased its latest model, E190-E2. Embraer hopes that Kenya Airways will be able to add its fleet, which is currently comprised of 15 E190s. The E190-E2 boasts of double-digit reductions in fuel burn and maintenance costs. Boeing recently bought a controlling stake in Embraer, with a deal valuing the Brazilian aircraft manufacturer at $4.8 billion US. The landmark deal follows another between Airbus and Bombardier that was announced last year.
Embraer's presence in Africa is extremely significant, with 100 aircraft currently in operation in 44 airlines and 22 countries in the continent. My country has witnessed in recent years significant breakthroughs in its social and economic development that have ensured greater prosperity and well-being to the Brazilian population.
Business myself, both done. Have a good night.
despite strong criticism by human rights organizations and some of the residents who now demand a clear compensation plan.
Zainab Ismail with the details.
The Lands Act gives the government the right of early entry. And that's exactly what the government has done, early entry, because this is a public utility.
On Wednesday, human rights organizations faulted the eviction process, saying it was illegal and inhumane.
And these evictions occur in complete disregard to an existing High Court order in petition number 974 of 2016 that explicitly prohibited the government from evicting residents of Kibra without putting in place a resettlement action plan.
Kura says the affected residents are to blame for failing to comply with the notice issued by the authority in 2016.
Tunauliza wakati wazazi wanaishi hapa, hatukujua ati hapa ni barabara ya serikali. Kulingana na maoni yale tulikuwa tumeambiwa, bali yetu tutajogwa na iwe roundabout tulipwe. Baadaye hasa tumeshindwa, serikali imetutupa vipi? Imetuacha hivi, tunaadhirika, hatuna hata pahali pa kuenda.
They have come to us just last week, when the time has elapsed. Had we done that in 2016, we would have actually sought the resources, we would have paid them, and they would have gone peacefully. But now, Johnny come lately. That's exactly what has happened. They are doing it the last minute, and that is why we are still trying to work on the data.
Cheboy noted that the authority is finalizing a report on the resettlement action plan. This, he says, could cushion the affected residents for a period of time. Earlier on this month, the National Lands Commission announced that the affected residents would not be compensated, but noted that the Constitution in Article 40 provides that those who occupy land without title deeds may be compensated in good faith. The road is 600 meters wide, running from the DC's office in the north to Kibera South Health Center before proceeding to Okari Road. In total, 10 acres will be used for the construction of the link road. Zainab Ismail, NTV.
We're taking a short break, and sports will also be coming up shortly.
Thank you for staying with us. First Lady Margaret Kenyatta's consistent leadership towards the elimination of mother-to-child transmission of the HIV virus has been praised at the AIDS Summit in Amsterdam.
Various global leaders paid glowing tributes to Kenya, saying the country is a trendsetter in the journey towards EMTCT in Africa.
Rose Wangoi reports from Amsterdam.
Over 15,000 politicians, policymakers, researchers and activists from more than 160 countries are attending the 22nd International AIDS Conference in Amsterdam, the Netherlands. Hundreds of participants that included the Kenyan delegation comprises the First Lady Margaret Kenyatta, Chief Administrative for Health Dr. Rashid Aman, and officials from the National AIDS Control Council. With the International AIDS Conference underway here in Amsterdam, Kenya has been recognized for its progress in the elimination of mother-to-child transmission of HIV, signaling success in an ongoing campaign to limit the spread of the virus. New data indicates that child HIV infections have been averted due to PMTCT scale-up. This has been achieved through early HIV diagnosis and increased skilled birth deliveries. First Lady Margaret Kenyatta informed the meeting that Kenya aspires to completely eliminate MTCT by 2021 and join the 10 countries with zero mother-to-child HIV transmission across the world.
We have created a unique collaboration model that has inspired action for increased resources for HIV control, maternal and child health, and sexual reproductive health issues.
Your Beyond Zero campaign, I don't want to come in again, has brought health and well-being to women and children across Kenya.
Kenya is also among the over 200 exhibitors at the Rai International Convention Center's Global Village, where information about the country's campaign against HIV and AIDS is available. Ruzongoi, NTV, Amsterdam.
Well, Brian Otwal brings us the sports next.
Association with Imperial Leather.
Let's have a look at the day's sporting news. Welcome, my name is Brian Otwal. The national women's football team Harambee Starlets' poor run in the Sekafa Championship continued with a 1-0 loss to Ethiopia that sees them stay bottom of the table with a single point. Uganda completed their games in 5-team round-robin competition with 7 points after a thrilling 2-2 draw with Rwanda. The championship is wide open as second-placed Ethiopia on 6 points play third-placed Tanzania, who have 4 points in the first game on Friday, and Rwanda, who have an outside chance to win. With 4 points play Kenya in the final game. And defending champions AFC Leopards and Gor Mahia are through to the quarterfinals of the SportPesa Shield following contrasting wins this afternoon at the Kasarani Stadium. Ingwe had to come from behind to see off Mwatate United 2-1, winning the last kick of the game. Manasseh Wanyonye had put the Taita Taveta-based side ahead in the 10th minute, but Eugene Mukangula scored 2 minutes into the second half, and Ezekiel Odera scored the winner for AFC in injury time. This as Kevin Ade Omondi scored twice as Gor Mahia cruised into the last 8 with a 3-1 win over Posta Rangers. Some games going on here in Eldoret. National champions Wieta girls suffered a shock 1-0 loss in their second match in the Term 2 secondary school games that are ongoing in Eldoret. This as St. Anthony's scored late to ensure a 1-1 draw with Kakamega High School in the Nationals, and their under-16 team advanced to the semi-finals of the 10th edition of the Copa Coca-Cola. In girls under-20 football, Kwale girls stand defending champions Wieta girls by a solitary goal. Elizabeth Kioko scored the lone goal that blew Group A wide open. In the other match, Matu Memorial lost 7-0 to Archbishop Njenga. In the boys under-20, Dagoretti High School thrashed Talbas from Northeastern 9-0, while Shimba Hills drew 1-1 with Olbosat. Meanwhile, St. Anthony booked an early slot to the semi-finals of the Copa Coca-Cola after a 2-1 win over Kinondo as Upper Hill High School bounced back from their opening draw to win 1-0 against Olbopsat. The girls under 16 coast side Wa girls saw off Matadel 3-1, while Moi girls Nangili beat Tartar girls 1-0. Meanwhile, Harambee Stars assistant coach Nicholas Borike is on a talent hunt at the Nationals.
Of course, we are there for improving our scouting network, but also for creating some connection with the local coaches and better know this area, and of course we're there for creating the future base of the Harambee Star.
In girls volleyball, national champions Kwantanze continued with the Imperials' form, beating Nyakat by straight sets, while Cheptil recovered from their opening loss to win 3-0 against Tetu girls.
We've worked on the girls' emotions and the skills, and above all, we are God-fearing school. So we hope that when we give our best, we shall emerge the winners.
In boys volleyball, Western's Malava beat Central Region's Karega in straight sets, and Magonga PAG saw off Gatunga by a similar scoreline. Rugby Sevens headlined day 3 action of the games with last year's runners-up Chavakali seeking to win the title in the absence of champions Menengai High School. And 10 of Kenya's leading amateur golfers will be seeking to defend the title when Victoria Cup tees off on Thursday at the 18-hole golf course at the VetLab Sports Club. This is the 3rd edition of the rotational tournament between Kenya and Uganda. The inaugural tournament took place at Muthaiga Golf Club in 2016 before moving to Uganda's Entebbe Golf Club in 2017. Kenya has won the trophy in both editions, and a 10-man team that includes John Karichu of Limuru Country Club, Mike Kisia of VetLab, and Edwin Mudanyo of VetLab will fly the Kenya's flag. The format of the tournament will be a combination of foursomes, 4-ball, better ball, and singles.
Thank you. I think the hand which is over him might be the hand winning.
And changes are expected within the playing setup of the Kenya Sevens team following their disappointing performance at the World Cup in San Francisco, where they finished 16th. And as Sean Kadavilis reports, the main focus, however, will be on the future of head coach Innocent Simiyu, who will lead the team to a record-breaking season at the World Rugby Sevens Series.
The national sevens team arrived back in the country early Tuesday morning following a disastrous World Cup in San Francisco where they finished 16th out of 24 teams. Apart from a narrow win over Tonga, Kenya lost to Scotland, Ireland and Samoa before going down 14-26 to Japan in the 15th place final. There are almost certainly going to be changes made in the playing unit, with players' contracts up for renewal, while head coach Innocent Namko Simiyu's contract expires in October 2018.
It's been a very, very disappointing weekend, for us as a former players, and I think it's been disappointing for most. I think only one team got to the final, and I think England and the All Blacks who got to the other final have been the most consistent over the last 2 World Cups.
Yes, you're going on strike. You'll be paid your allowances and everything. Then have you been training? No. Teams have been training. Look, for example, New Zealand, who won the Commonwealth and then went on to win the World Cup, to retain the World Cup. I mean, they've been saving.
The build-up to the World Cup for Kenya was disastrous, with the masking gate scandal culminating in the firing of coach Simiyu. He was later reinstated after pressure from the government, but the damage was already done. The government, through the Ministry of Tourism, is set to announce a 3-year sponsorship for Kenya Sevens, and Simiyu's future may play a role in the signing of the deal.
It's all about performance at the end of the day. So the performances as well, I guess they will do the report. I guess it's now how the director of schools in the union will look at where is rugby going into the next season, whether they'll go the current management. But I think Simiyu still has an opportunity to grow.
And the next assignment for Shuja is the Safari Sevens in September, followed by the Africa Sevens in October, with the new World Sevens Series season starting with the Dubai Sevens in December. Sean Carter-Villas, NTV.
Man, you got to have game. When it's all sweat, pressure and anxiety, yet that's just halftime. Stay cool and in the game with Imperial Leather for Men range. Wear luxury. A little luxury goes a long way.
Well, that's all from our sporting desk. Have a lovely night. We play again tomorrow. My name is Brian Otual.